Luke stood at the edge of the grand hall, his armor shining under the golden lights. Banners hung from the ceiling, and the walls were lined with statues of past kings and queens. The hall was silent, except for the soft shuffle of feet as soldiers waited for the queen's words. Luke could feel the weight of the room pressing down on him. He had served the queen faithfully for years, yet now he felt like a stranger in his own place. Queen Helen walked into the hall, her presence commanding attention. She moved with grace, her robes flowing behind her as she approached the throne. Her eyes scanned the room, sharp and critical. When they rested on Luke, he felt a shiver run down his spine. She did not smile. She did not nod. She only looked at him with a cold, calculating gaze. "Captain Luke," she began, her voice clear and firm, "I am disappointed in your recent actions. The enemy has grown stronger, and yet your troops failed to defend the border. Your decisions cost lives and weakened our defenses." She paused, letting her words sink in. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to look at their queen or away. Luke clenched his fists, trying to keep his anger in check. He opened his mouth to respond, but the queen held up a hand. "Silence. I will not tolerate excuses. You swore an oath to protect this kingdom, and you have failed. Your pride has clouded your judgment, and your failure will not be forgotten." The words hit Luke like a hammer. He had trained for this moment, fought for his people, and yet here he was, accused of failure in front of the entire hall. He felt a mix of shame and anger. He wanted to shout to defend himself, but he knew it would not change the queen's mind. The hall seemed to grow colder, the silence heavier. He remembered the long nights of training, the missions where he risked everything to save others, the times he had put his life on the line for the queen and her people. And now, all of that was reduced to a few harsh words. He looked around and saw the faces of his soldiers. Some avoided his gaze, some looked nervous, and a few looked disappointed. He realized that the queen's words had not just targeted him, but had shaken the confidence of the men and women who trusted him. He took a deep breath and tried to steady himself. He wanted to prove her wrong, to show that he was still the man who could lead and protect. But the anger inside him would not be contained. It boiled up, threatening to explode. He knew that staying in the hall meant swallowing his pride and pretending to accept the humiliation. He could not do that. Without another word, Luke reached for his armor. Slowly, deliberately, he set it down on the polished floor. The metal clanged softly, a sound that echoed through the hall. The soldiers turned to look, and a hush fell over the room. Queen Helen raised an eyebrow, surprised by the gesture, but she did not speak. Luke's eyes met hers, filled with defiance and determination. He did not bow. He did not kneel. He only turned and walked toward the large doors at the end of the hall. Each step was measured, deliberate, and full of purpose. The guards tried to stop him, but he pushed past them, his mind focused on leaving the palace and finding a way to prove himself outside the queen's shadow. As he stepped into the cold night air, Luke felt a strange mix of freedom and fear. He had left the safety of the palace and the comfort of his position. He had walked away from honor in the eyes of his queen. But he also felt a spark of hope. Maybe, outside the walls of the palace, he could find a way to redeem himself, to show that humans could rise above any challenge, even the harsh words of a queen. The city stretched out before him, quiet and dimly lit. The streets were empty. But Luke knew that danger and opportunity waited beyond the walls. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing. He would not let the queen's words define him. He would fight, he would endure, and he would return stronger than ever. As he disappeared into the night, the grand hall remained silent. Queen Helen watched from her throne, her eyes lingering on the spot where Luke had stood. She did not speak, but a thought lingered in her mind. Sometimes, the greatest strength comes from those who dare to walk away. And in that moment, the seeds of a new legend were quietly sown. Luke walked through the dark forest, the cold wind biting at his face. Trees towered above him, their branches like arms reaching out to block his path. He kept moving, each step heavy with the weight of his thoughts. The queen's words still echoed in his mind, sharp and relentless. He had left the palace, but he did not feel free. Instead, he felt a strange emptiness that only grew with each step. As he navigated the winding paths, he heard a rustle behind him. Luke spun around, hand on the hilt of his sword, ready for danger. A young man stepped out from behind a tree, holding his hands up. He looked nervous but not threatening. "I am Nathan," the man said. "I am a scout from the northern villages. I have been sent to find you. You are not safe out here alone." Luke studied him carefully, seeing honesty in his eyes. He lowered his hand, but did not speak. Nathan fell in step beside him, matching Luke's pace. "The Queen may be harsh, but she is worried," Nathan said. "She trusts you more than she lets on. You have to understand that." Luke shook his head. He had trained his whole life to follow orders, but this time, he had made a choice for himself. "I don't care about trust right now," Luke said. "Need to think. Need to find a way to fix this. But not by standing in that hall and taking more words that cut me down." Nathan nodded, understanding without judgment. The forest grew darker, and the path became harder to see, but they pressed on together. After hours of walking, they reached a small clearing by a river. The water reflected the moonlight, giving the place an almost magical glow. Luke knelt beside the river, letting the cool water run over his hands. He closed his eyes, trying to calm his mind. Nathan watched him silently, respecting his need for quiet. A soft voice called from behind a group of trees. Luke turned to see a woman step forward. Her cloak was simple, and a small bag hung at her side. Her eyes were kind but serious. "I am Claire," she said. "I am a healer and a guide. I have been sent to help you. You have a heavy burden, and walking alone will not ease it." Luke studied her carefully. There was a calm strength about her that made him feel slightly safer. "I don't need help," Luke said, but there was a hesitation in his voice. He could feel that she was right. He had left the palace to think, but he had no plan and no one to rely on. Claire nodded and smiled faintly. "Sometimes leaving is the first step to finding the path," she said. "You cannot carry the kingdom on your own, but together we can find a way to make things right. The enemy is moving, and we must move faster if we are to protect our people." Luke looked at her, and then at Nathan. He realized that he did not have to face this alone. He had allies who could help him, even if they were not in the palace. They set up a small camp near the river. Claire tended to Luke's minor wounds and helped him rest. Nathan kept watch, making sure no one came near. Luke lay on the ground, staring at the stars. He thought about the Queen, the soldiers, and the mistakes that had led him here. He felt a mix of regret and determination. He knew that the next steps he took would define not just his future, but the future of the kingdom. The night passed slowly, filled with quiet conversations and careful planning. Luke finally spoke, his voice firm. "We need to find out what the enemy is planning. We cannot wait for them to reach the palace. If I can stop them now, maybe I can redeem myself and show the Queen that humans can rise above any challenge." Claire and Nathan nodded. Together, they would search for the truth, and together, they would fight. As dawn approached, Luke stood by the river, feeling the cool breeze on his face. He felt a sense of purpose he had not felt since he left the palace. The journey ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time since the Queen's harsh words, he felt hope. He would face the challenges, learn the secrets of the enemy, and find a way to prove that humans could rise stronger, no matter the obstacles. The path was uncertain, but Luke knew one thing: he would not stop until he had reclaimed his honor and protected his people. Luke, Nathan, and Claire moved carefully through the mountains, the wind cold against their faces. The path was rough, but they pressed forward, determined to reach the hidden ruins that Nathan had heard about. Legend said that the ruins held knowledge and weapons from a time long before the Queen, tools that could help humans defend their kingdom. Luke's heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. If the legends were true, this could change everything. They reached the ruins as the sun began to rise, casting long shadows over the crumbling stone structures. Moss and vines covered the walls, and the air smelled of earth and history. Luke stepped cautiously inside, feeling the weight of the place. Every step echoed through the empty halls, and he could almost hear the whispers of those who had come before. Claire examined the walls, pointing out old carvings that told stories of battles and heroes. Nathan found a partially broken door that led to a hidden chamber. With a push, the door creaked open, revealing a room filled with scrolls, old maps, and weapons. Luke's eyes widened. He'd expected ancient ruins, but not this treasure trove of knowledge. He picked up one of the maps and studied it carefully. It showed paths and locations of the enemy's camps, routes they might take, and weak points in their defenses. Luke's mind raced as he realized that the enemy was planning a major attack on the capital. The Queen had been right to worry. The stakes were higher than he had imagined. Nathan found a set of old weapons, sturdy and sharp, unlike the ones commonly used by the Queen's army. He tested one and nodded. "These could give us an edge," he said. Luke agreed, picking up a long sword that felt balanced and strong in his hands. Claire examined the scrolls, her eyes scanning for any information about healing, tactics, or enemy weaknesses. They spent hours in the chamber, gathering what they could carry and memorizing the maps. Luke felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Queen's harsh words still stung, but now he understood her fear and urgency. He had left to protect his pride, but now he had found a way to protect his people. As they prepared to leave, Luke turned to Claire and Nathan. "We cannot go back to the palace yet. We need a plan. If the enemy reaches the capital, everything will be lost. We have to move fast and act smart." Claire nodded, her calm voice steadying Luke's mind. "We will need allies. The journey back will be dangerous, but together we can reach those who can help us and prepare for the battle ahead." Nathan adjusted the straps on his pack. "I know a few village leaders who will follow us. They trust me, and they will trust you once they see what we have found." Luke felt a mix of gratitude and determination. He had left the palace feeling angry and humiliated, but now he had a purpose bigger than his pride. The hidden chamber had given them the tools and knowledge to fight back, and he would not waste it. The journey down the mountains was slow and careful. They avoided main roads, keeping out of sight of scouts who might report their movements. Luke felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but it was a weight he was ready to carry. He knew that the Queen's harsh words had pushed him to find his true strength. At night, they camped under the stars, the ruins fading behind them. Luke stared at the sky, thinking of the palace and the people who waited for protection. He spoke quietly to Claire and Nathan. "We must move quickly. Every hour we waste could cost lives. We have the chance to stop the enemy before they reach the gates. This is our duty, and we cannot fail." Claire and Nathan nodded in agreement. They knew the journey would be dangerous, but they trusted Luke's leadership. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, armed with knowledge, weapons, and determination. The ruins had given them a path, but it was their courage and human strength that would guide them to victory. As they walked into the darkening landscape, Luke felt a sense of hope. The hidden chamber had changed everything. He was no longer just a soldier who had been scolded by the Queen. He was a leader, a protector, and a symbol of human resilience. The journey ahead would test them all, but Luke knew one thing: they would fight. And they would prevail, no matter the cost. Luke, Nathan, and Claire traveled through the northern villages, seeking allies for the battle to come. The small settlements were quiet at first, the people wary of strangers and wary of danger. Luke approached with caution, showing respect and patience. He knew that earning trust would be as important as any weapon or plan they carried. In the first village, they met Jonah, a militia leader who had trained local men to defend their homes. He was skeptical of Luke at first, hearing stories of soldiers and knights who came and went. But Luke spoke honestly about the enemy, the maps they had found, and the need to act fast. Jonah listened, seeing the determination in Luke's eyes and the careful planning Nathan and Claire had prepared. "If what you say is true," Jonah said, "we need to act now. I will gather my men and train them quickly. But we must move together and strike with purpose." Luke nodded, grateful for the support. He and his allies began teaching the villagers tactics, showing them how to use the new weapons they had discovered in the ruins. Luke was patient but firm, making sure everyone understood their roles. Claire moved among the people, tending to minor injuries, strengthening their resolve, and sharing her knowledge of healing techniques. Her calm presence reassured the villagers, and soon, even the hesitant ones joined in the preparations. Nathan coordinated scouts and messengers to keep track of enemy movements, ensuring that they would not be caught by surprise. Over several days, the small villages transformed into a disciplined force. Luke's leadership inspired the men and women, and he could see pride returning to their eyes. They were no longer just villagers. They were soldiers ready to defend their homes. Luke felt a growing confidence in himself, realizing that leaving the palace had allowed him to see the strength in ordinary humans. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Luke gathered the militia leaders together. They spread out the maps from the ruins on a large wooden table, pointing to the enemy camps and routes. Luke spoke clearly and decisively. The enemy plans to attack the capital in 3 days. Cannot let them reach the gates. We'll intercept them here on the plains. We fight not just for the queen, but for every village, every family, and every life they threaten. The leaders nodded, their resolve firming with each word. Jonah spoke up. Trust you, Luke. We will follow your plan. Show us the way, and we will fight with all our strength. Luke felt a surge of pride and responsibility. This was more than a mission. It was a test of human courage and unity. He knew that the Queen had underestimated what humans could achieve when they fought together. The night was filled with preparation. Weapons were sharpened, supplies packed, and scouts sent to monitor the enemy. Luke moved among the people, offering guidance and encouragement. He could see the determination in their eyes, the same determination that had driven him to leave the palace. They were ready to rise to the challenge. As dawn approached, Luke and his allies gathered at the edge of the plains. The air was crisp and filled with tension. The enemy would arrive soon, and every second counted. Luke looked over the faces of the men and women who trusted him, feeling the weight of leadership and the strength of human spirit. He realized that this was the true test, not just of skill, but of courage, trust, and unity. He took a deep breath and spoke to his allies. Remember, we are humans. We are strong, resourceful, and brave. Today we fight not for glory, but for our people and our homes. Stay close, trust each other, and do not falter. Together, we will show that humans can rise above any challenge. The words echoed across the plains, reaching every ear, and the soldiers nodded with determination. The first signs of the enemy appeared on the horizon, dark figures moving swiftly across the landscape. Luke tightened his grip on his sword, feeling the weight of the moment. He was no longer just a soldier scolded by a queen. He was a leader, a protector, and a symbol of human strength. But the battle was about to begin. And Luke knew that every choice they made would shape the future of the kingdom and prove the power of human courage. Luke stood at the edge of the plains, his sword in hand, looking over the gathered human forces. The villagers, militia leaders, and their recruits stood ready, eyes focused and faces set with determination. The enemy forces moved closer in the distance, dark shapes against the rising sun. Luke felt a surge of energy. This was the moment to prove that humans could rise above any challenge. He turned to Nathan and Claire. Remember the plan. Scouts keep watch and report any movement. We hold our lines and strike when they are weak. No hesitation. Nathan nodded, signaling the scouts to spread out along the horizon. Claire moved among the soldiers, offering reassurance and reminders to stay calm and focused. The enemy advanced, and the humans held their ground. Luke could feel the tension in the air, every heartbeat loud and sharp. The enemy was strong, but Luke trusted the training and courage of the people beside him. He raised his sword and called out orders, guiding the soldiers to form tight lines and use the terrain to their advantage. When the first clash came, Luke was in the front, leading the charge. The enemy was fierce, but human strength and determination held firm. Luke moved with precision, striking down enemies while encouraging those around him. The villagers fought bravely, showing courage that surprised even themselves. Their unity and trust in each other made them stronger than any weapon. Nathan led a group of scouts on the flanks, harassing the enemy and cutting off supply lines. Claire moved through the lines, tending to the wounded and keeping morale high. The humans began to push the enemy back, slowly gaining ground. Luke watched with pride as ordinary people became warriors, rising to meet the challenge with bravery and skill. The battle raged for hours, and the plains shook with the sounds of swords clashing and shouts of determination. Luke never wavered, always at the forefront, inspiring others to keep fighting. The enemy tried to regroup and strike harder, but the humans adapted, learning quickly and using every advantage they had. Luke's strategy and leadership turned the tide. As the sun reached its peak, the enemy began to falter. Their formations broke, and panic spread among their ranks. Luke seized the moment, leading a decisive charge that drove the enemy back further. The human forces pressed forward, showing that courage, determination, and unity could overcome even the strongest opposition. Finally, the enemy retreated, leaving the plains in human hands. The soldiers and villagers cheered, their faces shining with relief and pride. Luke lowered his sword, breathing heavily but feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He had led them to victory, not through orders alone, but through trust, strategy, and belief in human strength. Jonah approached Luke, a wide smile on his face. "Let us well, Captain. We fought like never before because of you." Luke nodded, feeling the truth in the words. He looked around at the people who had once been afraid and uncertain, now standing tall and proud. They were no longer just villagers. They were defenders, heroes of their own making. Claire came forward, helping the wounded and offering praise for the bravery she had seen. Nathan reported on the enemy retreat, confirming that they had been driven far from the plains and would not return quickly. The victory was complete, but Luke knew it was more than just a battle won. It was proof that humans could rise, adapt, and overcome any challenge when united. As they gathered on the plains, Luke looked toward the horizon, thinking of the palace and Queen Helen. He had left her harsh words behind, and now he had shown that humans could stand on their own, strong and capable. He realized that the journey was far from over, but this victory had changed everything. The human spirit had proven its power, and Luke knew that together they could face whatever came next. He turned to his allies, voice steady and strong. "Today we fought not just for victory, but for our people, our homes, and our future. We have shown what humans can do when we trust ourselves and each other. This is only the beginning." The soldiers and villagers cheered, their hearts filled with pride and hope. Luke had led them, but it was their courage that had made the difference. Together, they had achieved something extraordinary, a victory that would be remembered for generations. The plains were quiet now, the sounds of battle replaced by the gentle rustle of wind and the soft groans of the wounded. Luke walked among the soldiers and villagers, his eyes scanning each face. There was pride in their eyes, but also exhaustion. They had fought bravely and survived, but the cost was clear. Luke felt the weight of leadership settle on his shoulders once more. Claire moved beside him, tending to those who had been injured. Her calm voice and steady hands brought comfort, and Luke watched her work, grateful for her presence. Nathan reported on the scouts, confirming that the enemy had been driven far from the plains and would not return soon. Luke nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. The battle was over, and humans had proven their strength. As the last of the wounded were helped to safety, a group of riders approached from the distance. The banners of the palace fluttered in the wind, and Luke recognized the Queen's envoys. Queen Helen had sent them to see the outcome and bring news of her intentions. Luke felt a twinge of anxiety. He had left her hall with anger and pride, but now he had a chance to show her what humans were capable of. The envoys dismounted and approached Luke. Their leader spoke clearly. "Queen Helen sends her respect. She has heard of your victory and the courage of the people who fought alongside you. She wishes to meet you at the palace and discuss the future." Luke's heart beat faster. This was the moment he had been preparing for, a chance to reconcile and to show that humans could rise above harsh words and challenges. He turned to his allies. "We have done well, but we must return to the palace. The Queen must see what we have accomplished and understand that humans are strong and capable." Nathan and Claire nodded. Together, they began the journey back, moving through the villages and plains that had been the stage for their triumph. The palace loomed ahead, its towers shining in the morning sun. As they entered the grand hall, Luke felt the weight of the moment. Queen Helen was there, standing tall and composed. Eyes met Luke's, and for a moment, there was silence. Then she spoke, her voice carrying authority, but also respect. "Captain Luke," she said, "I have heard of your actions and the courage you have shown. Kingdom owes you and your allies a debt of gratitude. Your leadership has saved countless lives and protected our people. I acknowledge my harsh words, and I see now that humans can achieve greatness when they trust themselves and each other." Luke felt a mix of relief and satisfaction, bowed slightly, not out of submission but in respect for her acknowledgement. He spoke honestly, his voice steady. "Your words were difficult, but they pushed me to find strength I did not know I had. Humans are capable of more than we sometimes realize, and today we proved it. I hope this victory shows that our people can rise above any challenge." Queen Helen nodded, a hint of a smile on her face. The hall seemed lighter, filled with a sense of unity and respect. The citizens and soldiers who had followed Luke entered the hall, their faces shining with pride. They were no longer just villagers or recruits. They were heroes, defenders of the kingdom, and living proof of human strength. Luke looked at each of them, feeling pride and gratitude. Together, they had accomplished something extraordinary. Claire and Nathan joined him, their presence a reminder of teamwork and loyalty. Luke realized that this victory was not his alone. It was the result of courage, trust, and determination from everyone who had fought and followed him. Queen Helen recognized this as well, and she addressed the hall once more, acknowledging the bravery and dedication of all who had defended the kingdom. As the hall settled into calm, Luke felt a sense of peace. The harsh words that had once burdened him were now replaced by respect and understanding. The journey had been long and dangerous, but it had proven the strength of humans. Luke knew that this was only the beginning, but the foundation had been set. The kingdom had seen what humans could achieve when they united, and the legend of their courage would endure. The city was calm in the morning sun, its streets filled with people returning to their daily lives. The memory of the battle lingered, but the citizens moved with a sense of pride. Luke walked through the streets alongside Nathan and Claire, observing the changes. Where there had been fear, there was now confidence. Where there had been uncertainty, there was determination. Queen Helen called a council in the palace chambers. Luke attended, not as a soldier under orders, but as a respected leader whose actions had saved the kingdom. The council included village leaders, militia commanders, and key citizens who had contributed to the defense. The room buzzed with conversation, everyone aware of the importance of the meeting. "We have seen what humans can do when they work together," Queen Helen began. "Today we honor courage, loyalty, and wisdom. Captain Luke, you have shown leadership and strength that inspire us all. The kingdom is safer because of you and your allies." Luke nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and pride. He had earned this recognition not through words but through action. He turned to the council, his voice steady and clear. "This victory belongs to everyone who fought and believed. Humans are strong when we trust each other, when we plan and act together. The Queen's guidance and the people's courage made this possible. We must continue to build on this strength, protect our homes, and prepare for any challenges ahead." The council members listened carefully, impressed by his honesty and insight. Outside, the citizens celebrated quietly. Families spoke of bravery. Children ran through the streets inspired by the stories of those who had defended the kingdom. Luke walked among them, seeing the faces of people who now knew they could rise to any challenge. The battle had changed not just the city, but the hearts of everyone who lived there. As the day passed, Luke, Nathan, and Claire visited the training grounds. The militia and villagers practiced tactics, drills, and coordination. Luke guided them with patience and determination, teaching them to trust their instincts and each other. Claire tended to those tired or injured, ensuring everyone could continue. Nathan coordinated scouts and communication, strengthening the network of defenders. The human force grew stronger every hour. In the evening, Luke stood on the palace balcony, looking over the city. The sun was low, casting a golden glow across the streets and rooftops. He thought of the journey that had brought him here, the Queen's harsh words, the decision to leave, the dangers faced in forests and mountains, and the battles fought on the plains. Each moment had tested him, but it had also revealed the strength of humans. He turned to Nathan and Claire. "We have come far, but our work is not done. Humans will always face challenges, but today we have proven that courage, unity, and determination can overcome any obstacle." They nodded, understanding the truth of his words. As night fell, the city quieted, and the stars appeared above. Luke felt a sense of peace mixed with resolve. The kingdom was safe, the people empowered, and the future open. Humans had risen to the challenge, and the story of their courage would endure for generations. He knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, strong and unyielding. Luke's journey had begun with harsh words and doubt, but it ended with respect, unity, and hope. He had shown that humans could rise above criticism, fear, and danger to achieve greatness. Standing on the balcony, looking at the city that had once been threatened, Luke felt pride and determination. The kingdom was ready, and so were its people. The future belonged to humans who dared to act, to trust, and to fight for what was right. And Luke knew that as long as humans believed in themselves and each other, no challenge would ever be too great.